She says she wants an honest man, one who respects her and offers stability. But in practice, she gets involved with unstable types. She seeks respect, but connects with those living on the margins. This contradiction isn't a mistake in judgment. It's an unconscious repetition. Freud understood. Desire often doesn't seek safety, but symbolic intensity, even if that brings suffering. Men who build, care, and commit are often overlooked, labeled as boring and lacking spark or too straight-laced. Meanwhile, the archetype of the bad boy who lives on the edge embodies challenge, chaos, and adrenaline becomes a fantasy. It isn't a conscious choice. It's a psychic structure that repeats itself. We live in a culture where stability is seen as dull and chaos as exciting. No matter how hard you try, if you don't mirror the internal drama she's carried from an early age, you'll be ignored. The problem often isn't the man himself, but the emotional narrative being reenacted. This channel isn't here to soften truths or sugarcoat neuroses. The goal is to provoke reflection, not provide comfort. And yes, that can be unsettling. Psychoanalysis, when presented directly, unmasks many modern discourses. It challenges the idea that freedom means the absence of limits and reveals that behind much desire lie repetitions, traumas, and unresolved wounds. Today, men live in a scenario where nothing they offer ever seems enough. Expectations are high, but recognition is scarce. This isn't playing the victim. It's analyzing structures. If you still believe that just being good is enough to be chosen, you might still be trapped in a fantasy. Desire is complex. Sometimes it seeks exactly what threatens, what destabilizes, what reactivates old wounds. That's why self-destructive and unstable types end up becoming objects of desire. Not because they're ideal, but because they stage an absence, often the absence of a father figure. And it's in this tension between protection and threat that some feel alive. This video isn't self-help, it's analysis. If something here is useful to you, take it. If not, discard it, but please don't romanticize chaos. True love is only born when desire undergoes a deep transformation. Before that, it keeps spinning in the same cycle of trauma. She says she wants love, but what truly attracts her is what threatens her. Freud already explained that feminine desire is structured around a lack. The bad boy isn't just a body or a lifestyle. He symbolizes absence, the failing father, transgression. That's what she's trying to reenact. It's not genuine love, but a fascination with the forbidden, with risk, with breaking boundaries. The honest man doesn't offer that kind of experience. He offers structure, security, and for someone whose desire is marked by old wounds, structure can feel like boredom. That's why she often sabotages what is good and gives herself over to what is destructive. The bad boy activates what the subject fears, but also desires. Helplessness. He promises nothing, disappears, makes mistakes, and it's precisely in that push and pull that she feels something she confuses with love, but which is actually the repetition of an unresolved trauma. Lacan said, "Love is giving what you don't have." But often she demands something no man can give, the healing of a childhood wound. A man of value can't win that game, because the criteria aren't moral or rational, they're unconscious. And the unconscious doesn't always make healthy choices. When a woman rejects a stable partner, it's not necessarily out of malice, it's a psychic structure in action. Hysteria demands tension, movement, drama. For someone who grew up in chaos, calm feels unbearable. The bad boy is just the last link in a symbolic chain that begins much earlier in childhood. She doesn't realize she's repeating patterns. She believes she's choosing freely, but Freud showed repetition is a failed attempt to master the trauma. The more she tries to control it, the deeper she sinks. That's why she keeps returning to the same type. The name changes, but the emptiness remains. Meanwhile, the man of value becomes the shoulder that holds her together, the emotional therapist who helps with the reconstruction, only to be left behind once he no longer represents the symbolic risk that so strongly attracts her. That's where many men go crazy, trying to understand why they were rejected even after offering everything they could. The answer isn't on the surface. It lies in unconscious desire, which doesn't always seek what is good or safe, but what reactivates old wounds, because that's what gives meaning to the lack. That's why she says, "I don't know why I'm drawn to this type." Deep down there is a knowing there, but she avoids facing it. Admitting it would mean recognizing her own emptiness. It's easier to blame men in general than to look in the mirror and question what truly attracts her. The bad boy is just a supporting character in this tragedy. The real protagonist is the disordered desire that turns the repetition of trauma into a love story. Meanwhile, the man of value has to learn a hard lesson. Being good isn't always enough. Sometimes being good means being invisible. He only becomes useful after she's already been hurt. Before that, he's seen as too straight-laced, boring, too nice. She doesn't want you, she wants your shoulder. She isn't ready to love but to be saved. You're not the object of desire. You're the reconstruction project. It's a harsh script, giving everything to someone who offers nothing in return, then expecting the man of value to carry all the accumulated emotional weight. They say, if you were a real man, you'd understand my past. But in the end, the one trapped in that past is her. The man often just ends up footing the bill, and guilt becomes a weapon. She says you don't understand her, that you're insensitive or even chauvinistic. But what she often calls sensitivity, in practice, is passivity. She wants a man who feels but only what she wants him to feel, who erases himself in the name of love. You start walking on eggshells, afraid to speak, act, or disagree, because you know any different opinion might be seen as aggression. Meanwhile, the bad boy could disappear for 2 days and come back as if nothing happened, and she'd still welcome him with longing. This double standard isn't an accident, it's structural. Freud talked about this long ago. Female desire is often ambivalent. It asks for protection but feels drawn to threat. It wants respect but falls for those who ignore it. It seeks stability but calls it a prison. Many men lose themselves in this game. You weren't rejected for being bad but for being stable. And for someone carrying certain wounds, stability can feel like the death of desire. For her, chaos can be emotional fuel. Drama makes her feel alive. Suffering gets confused with proof of love. While you're trying to love her, she measures your worth by your usefulness. The man who listens, helps, understands, tolerates, until he's replaced by someone else. And so the cycle begins again. The problem was never you, but the role you were cast in. And if you push back, you might hear that you're toxic, that you can't handle a strong woman, when, in reality, what's often called strength is just lack of self-control. What she calls freedom is often just acting out. And what she calls love is, in practice, a repetition of the abandonment she never managed to overcome. The strangest part is that she always sees herself as the victim, even when she manipulates, even when she destroys, even when she turns desire into a tool for control. Hysteria needs a culprit. And the ideal culprit is usually the man who actually tried to make it work. You're not going crazy, you're waking up. Love isn't servitude. Desire isn't neediness. Many women only learn to value the good man after they've lost everything. But until then, they'll drain everything he offers and still say he never understood them. The bad boy becomes the symbol of what she wished she could resolve with her father, but never did. Absence, abandonment, denied affection. She puts that type on a pedestal because that's where her desire crystallized. It's not genuine passion, it's psychic transference. When you hear her say, "My ex was like that," but see her keep returning to the same pattern, that's the trauma repeating itself. It's not that she wants to be happy, she wants to conquer the past. To do that, she recreates the same scenario, hoping this time she can control the ending. The stable man, the man of value, disrupts that script. He offers peace. But to someone who learned in chaos, peace feels like emptiness. She doesn't want calm, she wants a stage. The bad boy gives her a stage, crises, disappearances, betrayals, and then the forgiveness, the promise to change, feeding the fantasy of redemption. Suffering becomes the language of affection. Chaos creates the bond. When she meets someone who doesn't offer that emotional roller coaster, she says there's no chemistry. But what's really missing is the trauma. Without it, she doesn't know how to love because she never learned without pain. Freud called this the compulsion to repeat. Lacan spoke of the jouissance in lack. She doesn't want the man who treats her well. She wants the man who represents the old wound, because deep down, she still wants to resolve that pain, even if she's unaware of it. You become the emotional therapist. She cries in your arms about another man, confides in you, you listen, you care. But when it's time to choose, she goes back to the same type. Then she says, "Good men don't exist." It's not that they don't exist, they're made invisible. She demands that you understand her pain, accept her past, endure her crises. But if you show your own pain, she calls you weak. Her suffering is sacred. Yours is ridiculous. If you set boundaries, you're controlling. If you disagree, you're aggressive. If you say no, you're toxic. And the cycle begins again. Because for her, love isn't a meeting of equals, it's healing. But not shared healing. A healing that requires a healer. A man willing to be emotionally drained until she feels worthy. And once she does, you'll be of no use anymore. Because the truth is, she doesn't want a partner. She wants a redeemer. And no man can live as a cross. If you've understood this, you're already a step ahead. Those who don't end up martyrs of affection and still blame themselves for having been too good. The man of value is the emotional band-aid. He's useful while she mourns the last trauma. A temporary shelter, never a permanent home. Because she doesn't want to build anything lasting. She wants to feel alive in the drama. And drama requires instability, not security. She says she wants to be loved, but rejects anything that looks like consistency. For her, love is adrenaline. The stable man doesn't make her heart race, he speeds up her boredom. So she holds on to you, uses you, drains you, and in the end says she lost the connection. Her desire is predatory. It doesn't seek reciprocity, it seeks nourishment. She wants you as proof she can still be loved, even after everything. But truly loving you would require maturity, and she's still living as the wounded daughter. You were the bridge, the stepping stone, the shoulder, but never the real destination. Because the real destination is always the same. The unstable man she believes she can fix. The more whole you are, the more inadequate she feels, and she runs. The man of value isn't exciting. He's a mirror. And for someone ashamed of her own story, the mirror is a threat. She prefers the chaos of the bad boy to the calm of the man who looks her in the eyes, because deep down, she no longer recognizes herself. Functional affection is cruel for someone who has only known dysfunction. She hugs you but doesn't desire you, kisses you but doesn't want you, calls you special but with coldness, because you're useful but you don't vibrate with what her body associates with passion. Without that vibration, she invents excuses to leave. She'll say she needs to find herself, that she's not ready. But at the core, it's simple. You didn't activate the wound. You didn't hurt her. And without the hurt, she can't recognize what she calls love. Freud once said, love is a symptom. And in her case, the symptom needs helplessness to exist. When you offer care, she feels off script and prefers to return to the familiar hell rather than learn to truly love. You're not being punished for being good. You're being discarded for not feeding the neurotic script. For her, the man of value is a pause, not the destination. Because the destination was forged in trauma, that's where her desire still lives. If you understand this, you stop blaming yourself. The problem was never lack of effort, it was too much illusion. You tried to love someone still at war with her own past, and in that war, the man who doesn't wound is always the first to fall. She says she wants love but keeps repeating the trauma. Says she wants respect, but desires the one who ignores her. Says she wants peace but only feels alive in conflict. The words say one thing, the unconscious another. And the one who pays for that gap is the man who takes her seriously. What she calls a healing journey is often just a new form of manipulation. Now with prettier language, wounds, triggers, boundaries, all revolving around her, you're still being used, only now as part of her self-care ritual. The new symbol isn't the bad boy anymore. It's the couple's therapist she finds for herself. A man who listens, validates, understands, accepts. But he's not loved, just tolerated, not desired, only needed, until he loses his function and becomes the villain. She believes she needs love, but what she really needs is a mirror. And when that mirror reflects that she's still broken, she shatters it. You weren't rejected for being bad. You were rejected for revealing how much she's still living in pain. A man who tries to save a woman who still longs for the abyss will always be dragged down with her. It's not strength, it's delusion. Believing your presence will erase her past is to place yourself in the role of the father. And that's the place of transference, not of love. The man of value becomes the symbol of everything she believes she doesn't deserve. That's why she sabotages. because accepting that kind of love would mean growing up, and growing up hurts more than being beaten by Joe Chaos. At least with him, she knows what to expect. You tried to teach her what it means to love in peace, but she wanted war. Tried to offer a home, but she craved adventure. Tried to be solid ground, but she was still flying through memories. No one can build a future with someone who lives in emotional ruins and calls it normal. She blames the world, her ex, society, but never looks in the mirror. She never questions the script she keeps repeating because her pain has become her identity. And the man who tries to love a wounded identity will always be punished for trying to heal the unhealable. You don't need to heal anyone or prove you're good enough, because she doesn't want good, she wants pain. And you weren't trained to wound, you were trained to love. But she's not ready for love, only for the next excuse. If you've made it this far, it means you've understood. Love cannot be a mission, nor a sacrifice, nor emotional rehab. Love can only bloom where the soil is clean. And those who live in the swamp of trauma don't want a garden, they want drama. You were a lighthouse in the storm, but she wanted to drown and called your attempt to save her love. Freud once said, "When desire is built over the abyss, any light becomes an offense." And you were too much light for someone who lives in the dark. The woman who lived on the emotional carousel wants to call dependence love and escapism healing. When she finds stability, she panics, because stability demands presence, and she still lives in a past she never overcame. Joe Chaos was her temple, chaos her prayer, and the man who shows up whole becomes a symbolic threat. He demands from her soul what she's never built. That's why she runs from truth, from love, from herself. You weren't rejected. You were discarded because you didn't activate her trauma. For her, love only lives where there's pain, and if you don't hurt her, she says there's no chemistry. It's not that you're unworthy, it's that she still hasn't found herself after the collapse. The purpose of this channel is to tell the truth. No filters, no ready-made scripts, so more men can wake up, because there are men waking up, and for them, every word matters. If you're one of them, subscribe, like, share. This is more than a channel, it's a psychic trench. Here we don't call hysteria empowerment, and we don't dress up chaos as romance. We call things by their real name. That might scare some, but it also sets you free. Anyone who's already taken the red pill knows exactly what's at stake. Share this video with a brother who needs to wake up. Take what's useful, discard the rest, but don't go back to sleep. This is the real world. The rest is a soap opera designed to domesticate men, and you weren't born to serve any narrative.